Okay, and the slides are visible, right?
It is, yes.
Okay, so hello all, welcome to the 69th edition of our BC Open Discussion. Today I have received two questions. One is around universal code and another one is a little bit confusing. So if Fawzan join, we'll understand what that is. And then, as we talked about, I haven't played it because in Archer Point, there's a team who take care of source control. But as we discussed last time, we'll play around with it and let's see can we set it up or not. And if time permits, we'll open it for discussions. Okay, so let's go through the normals. What you do if you're not default attendee is you go to this page and register. This page normally gets updated after this meeting. And if you are here in the meeting and don't want to register every week, then drop your name and email, and I'll make sure you get the invite every week. Okay, so what's happening? Dynamics gone. Voting started for sessions. I was super late in thinking about what should I present. So I'm getting so many report questions these days. So I'll be talking about reports, basic report development and all. But there are quite a few great sessions that are in line in Dynamics Con. The voting ends on 17th, I guess. No, 19th. Yeah. On 19th, the voting ends. So you should go ahead and vote for all the great sessions that you think are important for you as a part of your job. So you can just go here, log in, and then you will be able to vote for your sessions by clicking on this icon, and you'll see all these different groups, and then the presenters and their title. So go ahead, pick the votes that you have and distribute it to the people whose session you think are interesting. Going ahead, let's talk about the first question that came from Fawzan, and that's why I wanted Fawzan here. Fawzan is not still here, but he was saying something around, is there a way to directly integrate to a SQL database with Business Central using extension? The scenario is we have a database and a server, but we are unable to open it in nav. Now we want to do somehow extract the data directly into Business Central table. And I just wanted to understand why he cannot open a NAV database with an NAV client. Because it seems the only reasoning would be that it would have been opened in a higher version of Dynamics Nav. So you just need to make sure that you're opening it with the compatible client. There's nothing else that.
Or it could be. It
Go
could be
ahead.
about the network, the service, the network service, if you will, because
Yeah.
they faced a similar problem. Like the service network, I mean the service account. That's right, doesn't have enough permissions
Permissions.
on
Yeah.
SQL Server. Yeah, to start the service there.
Right. And his question said that version is nav 5. So I'm hoping that the only reason would be that somebody might have opened it in 2009, or they might have lost the user from the database, and both of them have the solution to figure out, as in to find out how to do it.
What should be the SQL Server version? 2008.
I don't know, and that's why I was kind of hoping that Fawzan will be here and we'll talk about it, but he's not here.
Okay.
So maybe we'll talk about it next week once he's here and try to understand what the problem is. Because if it is NAV5, then there is no point of copying data directly from SQL to SQL because the schema has been changed drastically. So he should actually upgrade it by opening it into an
Exactly.
app
Yeah.
and then have the data in Business Center like that. Okay, let's move to the next one. The next one was from Balaji, and Balaji is still not here. But he had an interesting question about BC Universal Code Initiative. So we have talked about it in past, and then there was a Microsoft Office hour call specifically around Universal Code Initiative that Microsoft is starting. And it is interesting that how we were discussing it a few weeks ago about how it will come into picture. It seems in the same way Microsoft is planning to implement it, which is, and I have some slides or screenshots from that, so let's talk about it. So here is what Microsoft says about the objective and the whole idea, as we discussed a few weeks ago also, is to make sure that pertinent extensions and ISVs don't become a blocker for a customer to upgrade or to move to SaaS if they have to. So the whole idea of having universal code is to make sure that you don't have the base app modified, and that's the first thing. And the second thing is that you don't have apps which are targeted on prem. So all the apps that are written by ISV providers or by partners as pertinent extension should not have this setting on their app.json called as target on-prem. And I heard different opinion about this property, and that's why I wanted to talk about it again. Even if your customer is on-prem, this property does not define where your customer is. With this property set in your app.json, you are suggesting compiler that the code that you're writing in this extension will never run on SaaS and will only run on on-prem, which is specifically around DLLs, .NET controls, and or file management, majority of these things. Or if there is a method which is targeted as on-prem, which is something like, there is a good example of it. Let me see if I can connect it through my Docker. Okay. So, okay. And that brings my AL package. Okay. So now if I go ahead and somewhere create a variable of file management, let me zoom this in that everybody can see it. Okay, so if I create a variable for file management in my extension for code unit file management, and then if I want to use file management, let's say temp file, client server temp file, server temp file name, and then gives an argument of .txt. This is a method in file management which creates a file on the service tier when you use it in CL and all. Now, why this is not giving any compilation warning? Because we have this target set as on-prem. So if I remove this, this will become a warning in my code saying that this method cannot be used on-prem, oh sorry, on SaaS, because this method in Microsoft code is defined as on-prem. So if you have to use this method for any reasons, then you should change your target to on-prem, and people are doing it for that matter. And this is the best code unit for this example because there are most of the functions which are targeted as on-prem, like this scope on-prem. So with the Universal Code Initiative, what Microsoft is trying to do is trying to eliminate extensions which are using methods which are only targeted for on-prem.
But is that a problem if I'm running a SaaS tenant And on the configuration file, I get to specify targets on SaaS or on-prem. Is that difference?
On
I
on
don't.
on on SaaS, you cannot set it to on-prem because that extension will not get installed on your SaaS environment. If you have this property set, you cannot install that extension on your Business Central SaaS. Ever.
What would happen if I try to install it using PowerShell?
On SaaS,
Yeah.
it'll reject it. You're saying using APIs, right? Because PowerShell
Yeah.
API will, yeah, so it'll reject it that this is not compatible to SaaS.
But for this specific case, I'm running a SaaS tenant and I want to use the file management code unit. So I need to set it to target on-prem while running a SaaS tenant.
You cannot. That's the whole point. That if your extension app.json says target on-prem, then that extension cannot be deployed on SaaS. That's not from today. That's been like
Yeah,
this from the beginning.
yeah, I know.
But partners who have customers on-prem, and for whatever reason, if they have to set target on-prem, this policy or this new rule, licensing rule, applies to those partners only.
Okay.
Okay, so the idea is that partners slash ISV partners don't become a blocker for customers if they have to go to SaaS. So, what are the deadlines on it? Starting Business Central, uh, 21, which is uh, end of this year, Microsoft is going to introduce two new modules in the on-prem licensing. One is implemented code is not an extension, and one is implemented code is not cloud optimized. This is applicable for any new on Business Central on-prem customer that we are talking about today. So starting April this year, anybody who buys a new license will have to, if they are using a target on-prem in their extension, the customer will have to purchase these two additional modules, or not two, either one or two, based on what they are using. The first one is if partner have modified the base app for the customer. So if you have developed a solution for a customer where you have to modify the base app, and Sandeep said, you have any questions?
Just wanted to add, this will also be applicable on upgrades.
Yes. This will also be applicable on upgrade projects. And for the first year, which is calendar year 2022, they will have to purchase these modules, but there will be no cost associated with these modules. But going forward, as you can see, the cost is increasing, and this is the cost per user per year. So if there are 10 users, then they pay 75 into 10, $750 per year.
Now this is great. This is, oh my God. This is great, really.
No, and this was very clear from the beginning, I guess, when Microsoft said that on-prem will follow SaaS rules. That was a very clear indication that you should not be writing code which is only for on-prem. And modifying base app was never a great idea. As in, I don't understand why even Microsoft allowed that, but even they did, we never, approached solving a customer problem used by modifying base app.
Oh, well.
So yeah,
You should try implementing an Indian version.
but it's it's actually Sandeep sir, it's actually coming in the right time because India just got Business Central. And it's the right time for India partners to understand that they should not be doing what I guess you and me were discussing in the beginning. That can we modify the GST extension? And yes, we can, but should we? Is the question.
The problem is there are not even a single event published from there. So I
And there's
can't control anything.
there is a thread available on Yammer group of Microsoft where I guess they said in the session that let's discuss about things that are challenging in your local environment, or sorry, in your local version of Business Central or in the base app if required, and then they'll try to figure out a way if that's needed. Now that was for that, and then these are the dates. Existing customer license, which is before April 2022. They are not required to purchase or required to license for the non-universal code modules, which are those two modules, because they don't want to interrupt any upgrades, as Sandeep sir was saying, or any other implementation, more or less, at this point. But existing customer who are on Business Central on-prem or Dynamics Nav on-prem, and then when they are upgrading after April 2022, will have to buy the non-universal code uh, uh, module in their license if partner is deciding to write some extension code which is targeted on-prem. These are the different dates. The fees will start from January 1st, 2023. Before that, it's just a module in the license that the customer need to add in the license. There's no fees around it. But as I was saying, that if you have multiple customer, what you should start doing is going and checking, is this property available? And if it is there, then just remove it and it'll tell you how much of your code is non-SaaS compatible. And you just have to work on that piece to make sure that is cloud ready. Any questions on this one? No, any other thoughts on this one?
I think you should do at least one session now where we can evaluate the scenarios where partners are actually using this feature and how to mitigate it. So, for example, if I have to save a file on the client server or I have to use a local printer, so we should evaluate and see all those scenarios. Like one of the thing is calling DLLs, local DLLs, how to convert them into Azure functions. So we should
Yeah,
do some sessions on that,
that's
if possible.
yeah, I also have to give it a try to how to kind of, and I guess there are some tips available, but I'll go through it where you can, as you're saying, have DLLs rewritten as your functions, and they can do the bit. I guess about the printer, there is something called as email printer in the base app without any charge, which can be
Universal
configured.
printer. Universal
Uh,
printer.
Universal or email printer, I'm saying,
Okay.
where you can set up an email address if your printer supports an email, and then when you send the document to that printer, it just sends an email to that particular printer and it prints it. So let me show you where it is. Okay. So if I go into printer selection, we can add a new, oh sorry, this is report printer management, and then this is email printer. Add an email printer, which will need an email ID. And my tenant broken Docker for some reason, where you can just set up the email ID of that printer, and whenever you select that printer while printing the report, it'll just send an email directly to that printer, and then that file will kind of get printed on a printer next to you. And I've used it, and for some, yeah. So here it is. There is an email ID and email subject that needs, and that sends that email directly to that printer, which then prints it. Okay. And then the other scenario are majorly around file management, and the ways I guess we have dealt it is with Power Apps, and I know for a fact that I will update some Power Apps. So there are some Power Automate features and Power Apps that you can build to kind of even integrate an FTP with your Business Central, right? Abhinav, do you know for that?
I think sort of I just did a simple Power App, not with the custom things. But yes, we can still try that.
Yeah, because file management is one of the biggest issue that is one of the major challenge, I guess, at this point where the files need to be placed on customer server or read or write from the customer server. The other alternatives are SharePoint and eFocus also have an app on app source and also on-prem, which does the SharePoint connection within Business Central and gives drag and drop features within Business Central.
Another problem will be comports, like integration with Waybridge or any medical equipment, where you have to take the feed from through the com ports, which is then the solution which they suggested was you have to build some local application which can consume and send
API.
API, provide APIs.
Okay. Yeah, let's think about some things and we'll give it a try. As in, I haven't tried it, or maybe I haven't stuck on a situation like this. But yeah, that'll be something that can be worked on. Okay, so now let's talk about DevOps that we were planning to talk about last week. And I was thinking to try it out, but then I thought I haven't done it, so it's better let's do it together. And if we fail, then we fail. As in, we can talk about other things that we have later. So let me open my browser, and I should have. Let's go to the Azure dev.azure.com. That's where if you don't have Azure DevOps, you go and you register for it. This is kind of the beginning or the starting point with it. So there are two start free. One is start free, and then one is start free with GitHub. I don't know much about it. Which one should I use?
Start
Let's see.
free. Start free.
What does GitHub does?
And this gives you independent console of the GitHub where you can do manual direct on GitHub the merging and everything. While DevOps free lets you do everything on the DevOps only,
Okay, let's
which is
see.
more or less the same thing.
Right, which is more or less the same thing, but with DevOps you get the TFS as well as okay. This is, let's say, demo, and I think I have a DevOps demo project. Let's do that, and let's keep it public for a while. And here it is. Weird. Let's enter a new one. Okay, it says X and X SJQK3. Okay. Okay. And that should take me to Azure DevOps. And I don't know much about the pricing, but as far as I've heard, I guess the first 5 users are free with some. Uh,
5 basic users are free and
okay,
unlimited stakeholders. So stakeholders cannot create new projects and can't work on repositories. So you can say 5 developers can work
okay,
and unlimited stakeholders.
okay. So let's. I don't know why I forgot the project name, but let's do this. And let's. Oh, I cannot create public libraries or
No, you cannot.
projects.
Private. It's within your organization, so it will always be private.
Okay. Now here's the project. Now let's understand what a project is. I consider a project as one of my customer, and there are different reasoning behind it. One reasoning is that you might plan to have multiple extension for that customer, and that you can do when you have one uh, project per customer. The other reason of having separate project per customer is that you can control whom you want to invite in that project. In some scenarios, you might have developers at customer end who would also like to co-work with you uh, in the extension that you're building for them.
May I add something
Then,
to it?
yeah, go ahead.
So this will also include even the functional users of the customer, because you have got complete project management on top of it. The boards which you are seeing on the left side. So
Right.
you can define tasks, assign the task to the client customer, client users, and as and when they complete their task, they can do the updation. So not only developers, but normal functional users or the process owners can be assigned tasks through this activity. So it is always recommended per customer. Uh, if not, matlab you can even do, if there are two projects simultaneously running for the same customer, you can make separate projects here.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, but yeah. So, okay, let's come down to there are so many things into it, and you can read about it, but majority of developer time goes into the repo area, where this is the repo which is right now empty. And as I was saying, you can have multiple projects in here. You can create a new repo for a new extension, for a separate extension if you are trying to plan multiple extension for that customer. Now, there are different ways to kind of set it up. You can clone this in your VS Code by clicking on this button and then define your repo. You can push an existing repo from the command line if you are good, if you like that, or you can do an import from here. When you do an import from here, it will request you a URL that from where you want to clone the repo that already exists. And if you haven't noticed, Freddie a while ago when he introduced run AL validation in the BC container helper, also wrote a blog where he talked about that he had created a template just specifically for Business Central, which have all the things configured, which is your pipelines and all your build process and everything. So let's have a look into it. Here is Freddy's public repo, which everybody can see. You have already set up the structures for the current build, for the cloud, for the current version, for the next major, which as of today is BC20, and next minor would be 19.3 or 4 at this point. And here plays all these YAML files, so we as developer don't have to understand more or less how this works and what it does. If you're not interested like me into this is all already in place, which talks about all different versions, daily builds and all. Other than that, there is some GitHub workflow, and that also talks about the release pipeline and the current and the future pipelines for this project. Then there is the app folder, which contains your source app, the source code for your app. So you can then define your folders. As far as I remember, Freddy said, because this keeps on changing, so I'm keeping it empty and I'll leave it to partners how they want to structure their source code inside this. Then you have created this base, and this is just to test. And then there are some script which are used during the pipeline for cleaning up the repos, uh, cloud dev environment details, which is you have a Azure server running where all these Dockers being created and destroyed once the work is done. And then this is the DevOps pipeline, which picks the YAML file based on the configuration that is here. All these parameters are here and all these things. But the cool part is you don't have to modify any of this. You just have to look at this file called setting.json. Now, this is the main file which decide which pipeline will run against which version it is run and which folders to consider, which apps your app may have dependency, assuming that you're using an ISV where you have dependency to it. So during the build pipeline, you'll also need to define that dependency. And that all works in this area. So here it is. It says the app folders are app and base. So anything that's inside these two folders will generate an app file for those. The test folder where all your automated tests are written is inside this folder, which is also a code or an extension. Then this is what will get installed when uh, the build pipeline will run. Do you want to install the test runner, test framework in the Docker that will be created? Do you want to sign your apps? Do you want to enable code cop, app source rules and all? And then when you come down here, this is where you talk about the versions that you're dealing with. This is for if your build pipeline is running for CI, then it'll use this version in this case, which is 18.0 for North America or US. If you have you using current, then you use this. If you're using cloud, then you use this. Next major is this, and next minor is this. Now, where all these are used is he have already set up or shown a demo here in the pipeline section that he has set up all these 4 pipelines for this particular project. The cloud one, the current one, the next minor, next major, and CI. And then is always trying testing with these hybrids and 14.x. Now, whenever you do a commit, then these run based on different agents that you configure, and maybe we'll talk about it some other day. We're talking about this. But if you use this script or this template from Freddy, then you just have to take care of this part to kind of set the version that it should run when you do a commit. And rest is the structure that will follow as you need. You already have a git ignore, which ignores any app files, FLF files, XMLs, and JSON. So now if I have to kind of take this as a beginning point, so I can just clone this, copy this URL, go back here, paste in here, and import that. Now what it is doing, it's copying everything from Freddy's Hello World app and putting it into my demo project repo. And based on this, I can start using this. So now this is a copy of what Freddy did in my demo project. Now, as the first step, what you'll do is you will do a clone of it on your VS Code. Okay, and let me put it at my desktop. Okay, temp. It might fail because it will not understand my credential at this point. It may fail. And now it's asking for it. Okay. And now I have to look for my account, which is okay. So once I authenticate this, this will start copying the files which are there into my account. And I forgot the use. Oh, here's the username. Okay. And then, okay. Okay, I'm trying to authenticate it here, and it requires me to change my password. So, okay. Okay. And once it gets authenticated, which it did, it should start cloning, and there should not be any error. Okay, open. And here is the folder that got copied from my DevOps here. Now, when you have multiple projects in one main project, like we have in this one, where we have an app, and then we have a test, and we have a base, which is something like this. The best thing that Visual Studio support is you can have a workspace file, and that's what we are seeing right now. So let me close the workspace. Let's understand what is a workspace in that case. Okay, here. So when I open this, at this point for Visual Studio Code, it's an AI language code. It understands it based on the files that are there. But for it, at this point, it's one single project, which means one project as one extension. So it will not consider app as a separate extension, or base as a separate extension, or test as a separate extension, which they are because all of them has their own app.json. So to make sure that your compiler understand that this project have multiple apps, in this repo, when we open it in the folder structure, you will see that there is a file of workspace. So let's open it with code and let's see what's in there. Okay, let me open it with Notepad++. So this is just listing all the folders inside the main folder. And based on this workspace file, the system understand that it can have one or more extension into it. So what this file does, it lists all the folder that this folder has.
Interesting. He just laughed.
Maybe a power breakdown.
Maybe, yeah.
Sorry guys, I got dropped because the password was changed. Sorry for that.
We were
That's,
wondering what happened.
Yeah, because I just changed the password for the VS Code authentication and then it failed.
we thought outage. That's fine.
Okay. So this is the workspace file that is able to explain VS Code that there are multiple apps inside this one folder. And those different apps are part of different folders that you have. So it's just a directory structure. So if you're using this repo from Freddy, or most of the people use this, then make sure whenever you open this, you get a notification on the right hand corner says this folder contains a workspace. Do you want to open that workspace? And you should always say yes. Otherwise, the system will create a app.json in the root folder here, which is incorrect. So when you click on the open workspace, you'll see that the folders are listed in a different way and they are treated as separate apps. and our work majorly happens into this app word. So now what you do is when you have cloned it, there are certain checks and balances. People prefer to create a PowerShell query. That's a way. Or you can do it manually if required because it's just a template. So what you can do is you should have an ID assigned to your app. So you should do a create GUID. If you have a PowerShell, that's good, which will automatically do it. Assign a unique GUID to it. Give it a name. And let's say this is my template. I've taken from Freddy, but now I'm trying to store this on my repo as template. And going forward, all my projects, I'll not go to the Freddy's Azure DevOps. I'll rather clone my existing repo that I have built based on whatever my company decides as a standard. And then I say, let's say this is my template app. And I want all my apps to have, let's say, me as publisher. And this is demo, or whatever you want to set those. I don't need a dependency. For some reason, Freddy had this dependency. I will not need it. So I'll clean this up. And then inside this, I don't have a screenshot. I'm okay with it. I don't need the inside key. And let's assume this becomes my template. Okay. Now, what about the files that I'm going to maintain on this folder? Because that's very important, and specifically in case of reports. So what we follow and what I have seen initially, Microsoft and other MVPs recommending that there is a source folder, and inside this you have folders for each object types like pages. Remember the names are case sensitive, so don't do a caps on and a caps off because you like it, especially in case of reports, because the report mapping between the AL file and the RDLC file is done based on a property where you have to define the path. So it's very important that it is kept simple or in normal case everywhere. Something like this, I'm trying to create my template, and this will be something that I'll use on all my projects. There are more into it, like permission set. And there can be enums, and you can go ahead and do this as you want. It's just a demo. Now we have created all these folders, but we need to remember the rule of source control. Source control never stores or never commits an empty folder. So if you see here, it says that there is only one file change, which is app.json, where we just modified some property. It is not saying that we have created some folder because those folders are empty. So you should have some kind of temporary file here so that it doesn't get confused. So let's open this. And the way I've seen it, people doing is keeping it as git keep. Okay. Now, as soon as I keep adding these folder files into this, our source control will start understanding that there is a file inside this folder, and I should consider them during my commits. And this is just a placeholder so that the source control understand that there is something happening. Now it says that there are 10 pending changes, which are different files based on different folders. Now, once everything is set up, I should be doing the commit, and you should try never to commit in your master branch. Master or main is considered as a true copy of code in customer production environment. So anything on main/master, whatever it's called in your source control, it is based on source control. It is considered as a true copy of the customer code on customer production. So you should try to keep it on your own branch. So I'll create a new branch. You just need to click here, and that kicks off this. When you click a new branch, you need to give it a name, and let's say I give it today's date. Okay. Now you'll see that the branch is visible here, and then there are 10 changes. Now, when you are working on your projects, and let's say you made 10 changes, you can review them here, what those are, before you commit these changes. And let's assume that you don't want to take forward the app.json changes because you did it by mistake or there's no change. You're just playing around and it happened. So the changes list down all the files that has been changed from the time you have cloned this repo. And then the next thing is that you stage. Stage means anything that is ready to go. So consider it like it's all your stuff in your home, and now you are selecting which stuff you want to take with you in one of your trip. Now you can pick and choose that, oh, I just want to stage this. So you can click on plus of this, and this will go into the stage changes. If you are sure about everything, you can click plus here where it says stage all changes, and it goes to staged. Once it is in stage, you can still revert back one of the change which you don't want into the changes section. Anything that is staged, only that will be committed. So this is my commit where I'm saying added folders for source code. And then you hit this button called commit. Now this commit is a local commit which happened on your machine. It is not yet available in the source control. So if I go back to my source control here, and because I created a branch, let's go ahead and check branch. There are no branches other than the master, which means the source control doesn't know anything about what I'm changing. Because you have committed, those changes are stored or committed locally. To make sure that those changes are available on the source control, you need to click on these three dots and do a push. It'll ask you the question that there is no such branch on the source control. Would you like to publish this branch or create this branch in source control? You just say okay, and it will try to create it. Mine may fail because I'm not authenticated right now, I guess. But let's see. Or maybe I am. Okay. Let's refresh this page, and we'll see that there is a new branch added, which is the local branch that I have, and which says something specifically here. It says ahead 1, which means that till now on this branch, this person whose name is what Postsorov, which is my Gmail ID, have added one more commit while it is comparing it to the master. So you can make 1 or 10 or hundreds of commit in this branch, and it's okay. So now I can come back here because the branch exists. I can pick this file and say, oh, this time I also want to include this. I've staged this and said updated app.json. This, and then push this. As soon as this push is over and I refresh this, I'll see that there are now 2 commits, and my branch is 2 commits ahead from the master, which it is cloned from. And you can click on 2 aheads and see what you change, what the message on commit you put, and you can even click on it and see what was that change. You can see it inline, you can see it side by side if you have to. Now, once you're done with your day, I normally tend to do it every day. So let's say I'm working on this, what is this, demo project for quite a while. So every day I'll clone the master branch. I may make 10, 15 commits during the day based on whatever frequency I want. And at the end of the day, before I close my computer, I'll make sure that I do a pull request. Now, a pull request means that you're trying to pull the changes from this branch and then pushing them into the master. So right now, if you go, you'll see the master. When you are here on the master, the app has nothing. But if you drill down and choose your branch and come here, you'll see that there is a source folder inside which all the folders that we created. So right now there are two different branches, and there can be 10 different branches. If we all are working on one single project, then there can be hundreds of branches. Once you're here and you are sure about your changes, you have set up the pipeline, it have given you the app, you have tested it on customer test environment, everything is done. Now your changes are ready to go to master. Then you create a pull request and you say whatever the title of this and describe it if required. At the branch level, you can decide how many reviewers are required before this get approved as a pull request. You can have 0 to, I guess, 5 or 10. I don't know how many. You can decide that at the branch level, sorry, at the project level, and those reviewers will be required to approve it before your changes go into master. So when you create it, you will see on the top there is an approve button, because right now I don't have any branch policies, so I can also approve my changes. If there are any branch policies, I'll see that there are specific names of people who will need to review this before I can actually merge it. So I cannot just go and merge these changes. It'll list down all the files that I have changed. And if you are using, as Sandeep sir was saying, if you are using work item, you can also link these changes that you have done to specific work items. And when you link to a work item and the pull request is complete, those work items are kind of marked as complete. I'm an upgrade guy, so I'll talk about from upgrade perspective. Our work items are, let's say, objects that need to be upgraded or merged. Each object is one work item. And whenever team tries to commit it, they will link all the work item that they have committed in this pull request. As soon as they send it to approval and we review it and everything looks good and we approve it, those work item will be marked as closed. That means that much has been completed in that project. For right now, because I don't have any approver, I have approved it and I've completed. Now, once I complete it, there are different type of merge. I'm not pretty good at this. I don't know much about Git, but an squash merge is something that we use, which kind of overrides more or less whatever in the branch. And if there are conflicts, then it'll stop your merge. It'll tell you that there are conflicts in the merge and it'll not merge it. But if there are no conflicts, it'll just override things. And I'm pretty sure there are good amount of detail. So this is preserving all commit. This is with only a single commit on the target. I might have to read about it, but I haven't. And make sure that you delete your branch after the merge is done, because now your changes are part of master. So you should make sure that your local, not your local, but your source control branch that we created is no longer available after the merge is over. So once I complete the merge, it's trying to merge the pull request and it'll take all the changes that I've done and merged it into my master. So if I come here into the branches now, I'll see that there is only one branch and the last commit was done by me just now. If I come into the file section, there is only master, and master have all the changes that I have done. Now at this point, when you have completed your pull request, your responsibility as a developer is come back to your local VS Code, wherever that is. Let me see where that went. Here, yeah. And delete this folder, because this will become inconsistent because the branch is already deleted and you are on a obsolete code, more or less. This code is no longer available, or this branch is no longer available. So at the end of the day, when I've done my pull request, I'll delete my local folder, and then the next day when I come back, I'll start cloning this again in my VS Code. So I would suggest to start from this when you
Why
are
did you
starting.
delete that folder? Sorry to interrupt.
Oh no. The reason is because the branch is deleted because I have completed the pull request,
Fine.
and that becomes kind of without no parent, right? Because that is no longer reference. If I again try to push those changes back by making new changes, the source control will get confused because it's not, because it maintains information based on a head, right?
But you should actually prune the branch over there in the VS Code, right? Can you go to VS Code?
Okay, let's go there. No, sorry. Let me open my VS Code here. Okay, okay, new window. Okay, here it is. I don't have a
Can
branch, but okay.
Can you go to the source control?
Let me clone this quickly. Okay. VS Code. Okay. Desktop. Temp. Okay. Here it is cloned. Open a new window. And then there should be a pop-up to open workspace. Okay. Yes, open workspace.
Create a new
Okay.
branch and publish it. Can we?
Yeah, why not? Okay. Okay. It's a new branch. Let's push it out. Okay. This should be there in any time now. Okay, it's there, I guess. Yes, it's there.
Do any change, commit, and then I will.
Okay, let's delete this file because I literally don't need this. Where is delete? Delete. Okay. Let's accept this change. Delete is also change, guys, if you're thinking. Deleted page extension. Stop and push. Okay, gone and pushed.
Now merge and
Let's do a pull request, maybe page extension, create, approve, complete, and complete. Okay, this is done. Yeah.
now, can we now go back to VS Code? Change
Yes.
the this branch from
Branch to master.
master.
Okay.
Now go on the source control on the left side. The button,
Okay.
yeah. Now the three dots. Pull push,
Pull push.
fetch prune. Second last
Fetch
option. Yeah.
prune. Okay.
This will delete that remote branch which have been deleted on the DevOps in this system. Now you see if you go and click on the master in the bottom, you will not find that branch.
I can see it
This is a test
here.
branch. This is local, but no region/test.
Oh yeah. But why I'm seeing this file and somebody was saying something. It should not
Now
be there.
the thing is, you sync it on the just after the master, below the master in the bottom, sync. Yeah, then it
Okay.
will go
The action will push and pull commits.
to and from origin master.
Okay.
What this will ensure is that you don't have to um, clone every day.
Oh.
So this will continue every morning. You come to do the development commit in the branch,
Mm-hmm.
and every next day morning you can sync your master branch.
Okay, that's new. Okay, fetch prune. This prunes the local branch and fetches the latest copy of the master. Is that it?
Yeah, more or less, yes. So what it will do is all the remote branches which have been deleted or created, it will fetch them.
All.
Yes, all.
And so if there are 5 developers at the time, I'll be able to kind of get all the 5 branches here.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Actually, the
That's
way
good to know.
we are using it, so
Okay.
the tasks are created. We will create the branch from there based upon the task.
Mm-hmm.
Then that branch will be allocated to a user. Uh, it the task will obviously be assigned to a user. That user will do this fetch prune, download the branch, and then start working in it, commit. Then I will review, publish, and next day morning he will do the refresh of the master.
Okay, that sounds cool. Yeah, I didn't know about this. Thanks for that. Okay, so yes, so for the next time, what we'll try to do is I'll make sure that I kind of set it up the way I normally set up my repos in even on my GitHub, and then I don't know, I cannot give you access because this seems to be a private project, but I can give you the download if you need it going forward. But yeah, this will the Freddy's Hello World sample will help you to for sure in the pipelines that I will try next time if I can manage that on my local machine. Yeah, that creates a Docker and everything. So we'll see that. Okay, anything else for today? I guess no. But yeah, any questions, any thoughts?
Yeah, hi, Saurabh.
Hi, Rishikesh.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, in last meeting, you told that admin console will be gone, and we must learn PowerShell at least for Business Central, correct?
Yes, sir.
Can you suggest some course, or if you can have a session, that will be even better.
There are no courses, but those are pretty simple one. And maybe let's talk about this next week. I will
Okay,
surely. It's maybe it seems easier to me, but we can surely talk about it next week if required. That's all.
okay, okay. Thanks a lot, Saurabh. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Anything else, anyone?
I think, thanks, Saurabh. This was super interesting.
Thank you, sir. And yeah, if I'm healthy next week, we'll surely try to meet next week.
Hopefully it survived.
Yeah, hopefully survive COVID. So
Thank you as well.
yeah, thanks.
I have to take my test tomorrow. Let's see.
Okay. Best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you. And see you. Thanks for the session. It was really wonderful.
Well,
Yeah, thank you
sir.
again.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye.
Saurabh.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Saurabh.
Thanks, Saurabh. Bye.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.